Today, we're going to talk about how to choose a production company to work with and some flags you need to watch out for. The first question you need to ask yourself is, what kind of video do you want to create? Or videos you want to create? This will also help streamline and shortlist the production companies that you can choose from. So I like to categorize the strength of production companies into two very distinct types. One is the production companies that have scripted or narrative strengths, and two is the production companies that have unscripted strengths. So those production companies that have the strengths in creating fictional or narrative content are those that usually create or produce TV commercials, documentaries, branded videos, things that have to do with a lot of ideation before you going to produce or shoot. For production companies that have unscripted strengths, that those that that are very good at creating reality shows, events coverage, and live streaming, as well as showcase videos, for instance, real estate videos. And you can always tell from the show reels of the production companies where their strength really lies. When you watch different show reels from different production companies, you can tell, because ideally production companies tend to put their best foot forward. So let's say the reel is 2 minutes. The first set of jobs will be the jobs that they feel the best about. Then you can further streamline your options. Now that you further streamline the production companies that you want to work with, now it's time to dig deeper into the particular strengths of these production companies. I'll be listing a few questions that you really need to ask yourself and ask possibly the production companies. So the first one is, does the production company have in-house directors, or do they have a roster of external directors they regularly work with? This is very important if you're trying to do high-end TV commercials, or commercials that require a lot of high-end work. Answering this question is important because variety is a spice. So if you're trying to do a lot of visually appealing stuff, like commercials that you want to wow your audience, you really need to check production companies that have worked with directors that have honed us. So typically, in this scenario, I would tend to go for production companies that have a roster of directors that they work with, as opposed to those that have limited in-house directors. Remember, variety is a spice. The second question you might want to ask or find out is, what is the internal structure of these production companies? Is the MD or CEO the producer on majority of the projects? Or they have an in-house production team, or work with external or freelance producers, associate producers, line producers, etc. The reason why you need to ask yourself this question is because if the MD is particularly the one that drives a lot of the projects, the producer, the line producer, and all of that, be guaranteed that that person would not be able to give you 100% of the time, and the primary job of the chief executive of any organization is to sell. Be guaranteed that this person is not going to give you your project 100% of his time. So typically look out for production companies that have like a production team that they put together. Ensure that you can identify that there is a production team on ground, or either the production team is in-house, or they have a couple of freelancers that they regularly work with. The key is regularly work with, because production is teamwork and it's really about synergy. If they don't regularly work with these freelancers, there's a huge probability that there will be internal conflict. The third is a question that you don't need to ask yourself internally. You need to ask the production company that is bidding for your work. You need to ask them what their process is for your kind of project. So if it's a documentary, you need to ask them, okay, number one, how do you research? How do you end up in the scripts that you're going to use for the documentary? What is your research process like? Do you work with a research team or research organization? How do you gather data? Things like that. Then what is the process of the actual production? How many days? It might sound a bit mundane, but it's important to ask the production company so you understand that they understand the process of getting your work delivered from start to finish. Ask them the production process. How many days of shoot, how many days of post-production, what their feedback loops or times is like in terms of post-production, how many reverts that they are open to. It's also important to clear this and ask the production company directly before you go ahead to commission. The fourth question is something that you might also want to ask the production company directly, is how do they handle their post-production? From my experience, post-production is the part where things can easily go to hell. all the work and the money that has been put into the project can easily go to waste. So definitely a production company that has posts in-house is definitely a plus. It's very tricky working with production companies that are not fully in charge of their post-production process. So if they don't have an in-house edit suite or an in-house edit team, it's a very volatile thing to work with. The fifth and final is, how do they handle documentation? Documentation is something that many production companies can just let slide and not pay full attention to, especially when you're working with brands. So if you're a brand that is trying to do high-end TV commercials that is going to be shown online, it's going to be shown on traditional media, if it's a TV commercial that's going to be shown on terrestrial TV stations, you need to find out if this production company is on top of their game when it comes to documentation. So documentation could be anything from location release forms, talent release forms in terms of the models or actors, crew agreements between the production company and the crew, internal or external, that they work with. The reason I'm saying this is there are many legal cases that a lot of brands are having to deal with because of poor documentation. For instance, you work with models or actors on TV commercial projects, and maybe 2-3 years down the line, the same models can come back and say, you know what, the release has expired and they need to renew their model fees, things like that. But if the production company cannot present copies of the contracts that were signed with these models and their agencies, then it's a problem, because these models are not trying to take the production company to court. They're trying to take the big brands with the deep pockets to court so they can make quick bank. So if production company is not on top of their game when it comes to documentation, you really want to look into that and look for alternatives. I'm sure the 5 questions that have been listed would help you further streamline your production company options. Now I want to talk about the key flags to avoid when it's time to put pen to paper and commission a production company. 1, if they don't have a comprehensive reel showcasing their work, meaning they don't have references to work that they've done in the past. If they've not done similar work to the project you're trying to commission them for, it's a red flag. You need to hire a production that can demonstrate that they've done this kind of project before and they will not mess you up. Number 2, if they don't have key production executives, either full-time or part-time, that work with them on a regular basis, it's a red flag. I said before that production is really about collaboration and a lot of synergy is required. So if they don't have a production team that they regularly work with and they've understood each other, it's a red flag. You don't want production executives to be arguing on your sets, right? Number 3, if your primary contact person doesn't copy other members of his team when communicating via email especially, it's a red flag, because it simply means they lack collaboration within that production company. So once you send liaison with your primary contacts in the production company and they don't usually copy other members of the team, just know you're working with a one-man band, and that's a red flag. Number 4, if they don't send detailed and comprehensive production quotations that cover at least 90 to 95% of all line items required for the production, know it's a red flag, because they will not know how to manage funds and they'll run into trouble, and your project will run into trouble, leading to further delays. And finally, number 5, which is my most favorite, if the production company doesn't have a video marketing mindset, just know it's a red flag, because your production company is supposed to be your partner, your content creation partner, and they need to, number 1, ask you about the goals for whatever video they are trying to brief them on, ask how they're going to help you achieve those goals, and obviously they need to be a part of your journey, part of your process, understand your goals, help you achieve the goals. It's not just the meal ticket for the production company to come and create content and hand you over the videos. So in today's world, those are not the kind of production companies you want to work with. They need to have a video marketing mindset, and they need to demonstrate that in the course of your project. I believe I've given some tips that will help you streamline your choices in terms of working with production companies on whatever kind of project you're working on. So I'd like to hear your experiences in hiring production companies on all sorts of projects that you've worked on. Share your experiences in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, and click on the notification icon. My name is Soji Ogunnaike, and you can catch me on all social media platforms at Soji Oguns.